So I'm gonna hit go live
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Let's see. I swear, it's such a tricky process. Okay, what do you see on your end? Do you see it? Are we live? It looks like
Um,
we're live on my end. I
oh
gotta
yeah,
make
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. I think we're live now. Yeah, we're
Okay,
live now. We're live
awesome.
now.
I'm gonna hit go live right now. Okay, let's see. I swear. All right, I had to mute myself on YouTube. But yeah, okay, we're live. Woo!
Yay!
I'm
Welcome
happy to
back.
be back. I'm happy to be
Yeah,
back. Ah,
welcome back. We're almost done with the book. Actually, I'm looking at the table of contents, and we're almost done. We have like 2 more chapters after this security and identity chapter.
yeah, there was a lot going on in this chapter. It kind of it was a lot of speed bumps for me personally. Perhaps there were some missteps or maybe some outdated information, but that's okay. That's the nature of the game when, learning how to code and, everything changes each year. So
Mhm.
I'm happy that we're able to meet again and that we have resolved the issues. So I kind of made notes, but how did you feel if you don't mind me asking, how did you feel about the chapter in general? Like, what was your experience? Because I know mine was like, okay, this is challenging, but it's okay. So yeah, how
Oh
was your
yeah,
experience?
yeah. The chapter was very challenging. I guess because the book was written, I think, with .NET Core 2.1, and
Yeah,
then we're using .NET 3 or .NET 5 to
yeah,
practice. So I think a bit of outdated information, like you said. So we need to, bring back our knowledge together and then try to make it work. So even though it was challenging, I think it's really helped because it made us to understand a couple of things more than
yes,
we already do understand them. Yeah, so that's like the um, take home point for me. We're able to understand a couple of things more than we
right.
would have if we were just like typing it. But now, because it's not working, we have to understand what's actually happening, what's happening here, what's happening there. Okay, oh, now I guess this is what it's supposed to be, and then we'll put that in, and then we'll know, okay,
Right.
next time when we come across something like that, we know what to do, and then we'll move on from there. So yeah, that's my experience, and it was really, really interesting. It was really an interesting one. I had to ask a couple of questions here and there. Oh, what's happening on my code? I don't know what's happening. I had
Yeah.
to ask a couple of
I,
persons. I, I, I had to ask my brother. I had to ask some friends.
yep.
But at the end of the day, we're able to make it work. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
And as you already know, like I had asked a ton of questions in the group chat. I thank you guys so much just for being supportive. Like I even like met with my mentor and we walked through it. It was just such
Yeah,
it's a challenge, but it was a good challenge. And like it's that good feeling when you're like, okay, it finally worked. We finally figure out what went wrong. So I guess my question is in the book, it references application user. I don't think I recall it referencing identity user. So, how did you know to switch application user with identity user, especially in I believe it was the database context page class? I don't know, like that has to, if that question is making you reach far back, but like, a lot of the issues that I was running into is because I
well,
was referencing application instead of
no,
identity.
no, no. I remember what you mean. Mhm. I understand what you mean. So, how did I know? I can't say for sure how I knew, but
Yeah.
then when asking a couple of persons about it, said that, oh, okay, in my startup file, I was plugging in identity, right? And then elsewhere in my code, I was using application user. So for some reason, um, identity user that came with um, ASP.NET's core identity was what was registered in the startup file. And then even though we were inheriting from identity user in the application file, we kind of needed to still use, I can't say for sure that I know what's really happening there, but because some other codes are written, I plug in identity user to application user, and then I use that application user in the startup file and everywhere else, and it works. But this time, for like, okay, let me revert to identity user, which is a class that ASP.NET identity is given to us, and I did that, and it worked. And I was excited about that. So basically, identity user is like a class that's already made by ASP.NET identity. It has a lot of properties that can be used for signing and register. Yeah, so when we were registering identity in the startup file, we just registered with identity user, and then elsewhere in the code, when manager, we're just referencing identity user as well. So that's just what happened, right? So I just figured, since we're already registering identity user in the startup file, then why don't we just use it elsewhere instead of inheriting into the application user, since we're not even using the application user anywhere else in the file.
Okay, so, and maybe I can reiterate what you had just said, because you kind of broke up a little. So you're saying that you chose,
sorry,
I know, it happens. And maybe it's just on my end. But yeah, so identity user, you thought to reference that in the DB context and throughout the entire project, because it was in the startup file, and we're already referencing identity through the using directive. Is that correct? And you just wanted to streamline it?
Okay, give me a second. Can you?
Okay, yeah, it's probably like internet.
What we're talking about. Yeah, so can you give me the access to share my screen?
Oh yeah, of course. 1 second.
All right.
Okay, do you have access?
Yeah, I do. Sorry about that.
No, thank you so much for sharing. It helps to kind of like look at it as well. That's such a pretty picture.
Yeah, let's see. So here we go. All right. So I'm going to close all of this. Can you hear me properly?
It's kind of choppy and slowed down, but I heard that sentence properly. Did you pull up your code? Oh,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think when I share my screen, it's just going to go off or something. Can you share your screen so that we use yours?
Yeah, of course. Let me open up my code. 1 moment.
Okay.
Just have to minimize my screens. 1 second. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now.
Awesome.
Okay,
Wow.
you can see it.
Your team is really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, okay,
What's the
so
name of the team?
yeah, one of the members in our group chat, she was talking about how she got a theme in her VS Code. And I was like, you know what? Let me try that out. And I love it. For me, it feels like, okay, so this is cyberpunk. I forget, like, because it also references a year. It's like 1970 something.
Cyberpunk.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's called Cyberpunk 1970, whatever the year is. But
Okay.
I love it because it makes it feel retro, but kind of futuristic at the same time. So
That's nice.
yeah, I like it. I like it. And it keeps me
Oh,
kind of motivated. So
yeah, I like
okay.
that. So,
Um,
can you go to startup class?
of course, yeah, 1 second.
Awesome. So, if you look at line 37, yeah,
Like,
if you look at line 37, you notice that services that add default identity is, yeah, getting identity user, right? So,
right.
I, this is what we're using to register identity in the startup file. We're using identity user. So I figured since we're using identity, use identity user elsewhere in the project. And that is what I do
Right.
and it works. So I probably need to I'll probably need to understand why application user was not really working much later.
Yeah.
Because I've used some codes in the past where application user was registered in there and it works. So I probably need to find out why application user wasn't working and why we had to use identity user directly.
So it's basically just being consistent in what we're referencing. Um, so like say if we were to swap this with like say if we were to swap the identity user with application user, do you think that would still work, or do you think by referencing it as application user it's going to mess up the code?
Yeah, so if we change it to application user, yeah, I did try to change it and it gave me an error, which I didn't bother about checking much. So I just switched it back because, you know, don't fix
Yeah,
what isn't broken. So
yeah,
I just left it that way. And so
yeah, of course.
I'll probably check it out again, switch it up, go back to application user and see what the error is and figure out why it's not allowing application user, even though application user is inheriting from identity user.
Yeah, and I think it might just be one of those things where it's like outdated. Maybe there's just a new way of referencing this information now and referencing these libraries. So
Mhm.
maybe, yeah, maybe it's just a thing about time and it being
Maybe.
2021, because I do remember seeing like on GitHub, like because I'll compare my code, like if I'm running into any issues, I'll compare my code to Nate Barbettini's on his GitHub. And
Mhm.
I noticed that it did say 2017 is when these classes
When the
and
book was written, right?
yeah, basically it was 2017. So um, I guess that's just one of those things about time. Like as time goes by, things change.
Mhm.
The way that things are structured and referenced changes as well. So okay, awesome. Yeah, it helped so much. Like once we changed identity user, it all lined up. It all lined up. So thank you for that. Let's see, like what is my other question? Community services in the startup class. Um, okay, another issue that I had was the migrations. And like, it was a huge thing for me, like how do we use the migrations? And maybe the identity user issue just kind of compounded my understanding of like how migrations work, running into that issue and then seeing how it affected the, seeing how having an issue in my startup class can impact what is in the migrations files and folder and in the database. So I guess messing up my startup class affected my understanding of what goes on in the database. So going back to what I did and how you helped me and how other members in our group helped me resolve this issue was the idea of deleting the migrations files and also deleting the database. I didn't realize that it was so easy to delete the database, which is app.db. Because I was like, I gotta delete my entire database.
Yeah, it's very easy to delete your database, which is scary, because it was easy for you to delete your database right now without worrying. Because it's your development database, you don't have a lot of information in it, but you have to be careful when you're working with databases that um, that has information relating to the company, to the business, and all of that. So
Right.
it's when testing or playing around, you could just delete your database, and that's like an easy fix. Just start all over, and then you get what's wrong and all of that, right? But when I believe when you're working with a very massive database that is like that has been there for quite some time, you wouldn't want to delete your database. You want to find a way to fix it. So
Right.
yeah, so I think deleting your migrations file and your database is just like a temporary fix for when you're just playing around. You probably would need to find a way to make your migrations work so that it works with your database when you're working with a live production database.
Okay. So basically that was just a temporary fix to a small project. But if it was like in work, in your employment
You don't want to
situation,
go deleting the company's database. No, you don't want to do that.
that sounds that and exactly that's why I was like, you can do that. But yeah, in this case, it really did help and it was easier than I thought it would be. But I guess I will need to learn how to resolve these type of issues without deleting the database and just starting all over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so I guess and that's learning .NET .NET EF migrations, remove or drop,
Something like that. Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. So
And I guess I'll learn
you need to
more.
know the last migration that's affecting your file and try to remove that migration, then make it work. Something like that. I believe.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. So yeah, once I removed the migrations, I just deleted the files, and I deleted app.db, which is the database, the SQLite database. And then I re-added it. I did .NET EF migrations add, and then I titled it add items. I did that and I got my migrations back, my migration files back. And then I did .NET EF database update. And that's when I also got the database back. And after that, it actually worked. I even had texted the group. You saw when it actually worked, and I was like, oh my gosh. After 3 weeks of being frustrated and
of back and forth.
confused, I was like, finally.
Yeah, that
Finally.
excitement that comes when you finally succeeded in
It's
whatever
like,
was, affecting your code. You finally be
yeah.
able to resolve it. There's this excitement that comes. You're like, oh my God, I did it.
Yes, that excitement and that feeling of relief, like, oh, like finally I did it. Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so I guess we talked about um what went wrong in my code and what we did to resolve it. I
Mhm.
kind of was like interested in talking about the seeding the database. So seed data. And I didn't really read too much into it this morning because I was just trying to like hurry up and figure out like the project and trying to finish the chapter project
Cool.
wise. But I will have to go back and read
So
a little
that's
bit
right.
more about that. But do you
Yeah.
remember what seeding the database meant? And like what was your understanding?
Okay. So when your application is starting up, the database that you've already created is probably empty, right? It's probably
Yeah.
empty, and you you probably want a scenario where while you're starting up your application, there's like a code in your application that populates the database so that if it's like for testing purposes, you just populate the database to test some things. If it's
Yeah.
if it's to show someone something, you can populate the database without manually doing it. You just write up a bit of code that just populates the database upon startup, right? So that's what seeding the database does. The moment your application is starting up, what it does is it initializes the database and then populates it with information that you've already mentioned in your code. Like, oh, okay, I want some to-do items to be populated there already. I want some users to be created. You can do all of that through seeding of the database. Yeah.
I'm just
So
pulling up the seed data.
yeah,
Um,
so if you're looking at this code, you'd see that there are like 3 methods there. So this code is trying to populate the database with a user that has the role of administrator. So the first method, initialize async, is initializing the database, getting the required services, which is the roles manager and the user manager. And then um, let's see, so line 18 is getting the required services of role manager, and then line 19 is calling the method ensure roles are synced. So if we look into that method, you'd see that the first thing that it does, which is the method is in line 27, the first thing it does is it checks if the role that we're trying to put in the database already exists. We don't want to have duplicate roles. We don't want to have an administrator and another administrator role. So we're checking if that role already exists. So it says if it already exists, then you do not need to do anything. Just get out of this block of
yeah,
code,
yeah,
right?
exit,
But if
exit.
it doesn't, yeah, it exits using return keyword. But if it doesn't, then that would be line 33, creates a new role of administrator. And that's what line 33 and 34 does. So it first of all checks if that role is available. Then if the role is not available, if the role is available, exits the code. If the role is not available, creates the role, right?
Yeah.
So then when that happens, it goes back to the initialize, and then line 21 gets the required service of user manager, and then calls ensure text admin async, which is line 37.
Mhm.
And then in line 37, what it does is, okay, it finds if the user we're trying to add to the DB already exists. It says user manager users where the username is equal to this admin at to do the local. Then if it's there, return it and store it in test admin. Now line 43 is checking if test admin is not null. That means if there is a user in the DB with the username of admin at todo.local, then return. But if there's no user with that details, then create a new application user of username and email. Then in line 50 and 51, you're going to create that user and then add the role of administrator to that user. So all of this would happen first before the application exactly starts up, right? So that is what this seed class is doing. It's creating an administrator role and also creating a user and giving that user the role of administrator. And all of that happens before the application starts up. You populate the DB, then you can now do whatever you need to do with that information when the application starts.
Yeah. Is it okay? So I also had just noticed that this references application user again. I think I'll have to.
So you could change that to identity user.
Identity user. Identity user, and that should probably fall in line. Because I was thinking like, okay, I'm seeing something that could potentially be a new issue. So you're saying
learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. I am trying to stay away from that issue. The issue that has been driving me crazy for the last 3 weeks. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
So okay, so you're saying like when seeding the database means kind of feeding information, like especially if you want to test something out, feeding it with information from a class that will be initialized at the very startup of the program. And what we want in the seed data class is we want the identity role and the user, we want this information tracked. And if it's not created yet, if the administrative role has not been created yet, we want to create it. And if it already exists, then we don't want to move further with that.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. A new thing I also saw was the Constance class. I haven't really and like I said, I was just trying to finish the project. I haven't really wrapped my mind around what the purpose of this.
So this is just creating like a class where we store a variable inside of it, right? So we're storing this variable of administrator role so that in our seed data, we don't need to just start typing administrator everywhere. You could just say constant.administrator role. So if you want to change that information from administrator, so let's go back to seed data now. If I click on seed data. All right, awesome. So if you notice, we have Constance.administrator role how many times? We have it on line 30, we have it on line 34,
right,
and we have it on line 51, right? So instead of just typing administrator in this case, we're storing it in a variable in a new file, and then using that variable in all of these places. So if you want to change it from administrator to probably super admin, all you need to do there is it is affected in all of these 3 places.
Can you repeat the last sentences?
Was I breaking up?
Sorry, I know, like you were breaking up, and there was a slight delay. But you're saying we want to create a Constance class.
So that it's we have like a place to store administrator. So that we don't type in administrator everywhere. We're just storing it in a variable in a new file called constant, because it's a constant role, right? It's a very constant role. If you want to change it from administrator to super admin, all you need to do is just change administrator here to super admin, and it's affected in all of those 3 places at once.
Got it. Yeah, I'll have to kind of like read it through too, just to wrap my entire mind around it. I see we're a little after the start of the hour, so we should probably wrap up.
All right.
Yeah, okay, so one hack that I discovered during this chapter, and my mentor helped me discover this, was the ability to search a specific word or variable or method, and it made it so easy to correct the issue. Like, you know, any debugging issues, or so say like if I wanted to find all of, and you probably know, but I just wanted to mention. So say if I wanted to find all the references to identity user, I go to the search right here, and you see that I was searching application user because I was trying to like get rid of it, get rid of all of the application users, the situation. So by typing in identity user, I see it says 54 results in 13 files. So identity users being referenced in 13 different files. And then you see like this file right here. So I click here, and I guess it's captured by the methods that it's being referenced in. So like, you know,
actually I'm just finding this out for the first time.
What was that?
Actually just heard about this for the first time. This is like the first time I'm hearing about this.
Wait, you didn't know you could do this?
No. All I do is go from file to file and search. That's what I do. I didn't know about this. So thank you very much for this information.
That makes me so happy because I wasn't sure like if this was just a known thing. And you know, like I'm still getting more acquainted with VS Code.
I actually didn't know about it. So I even just tried it out in my code, and yeah, it's really a useful one. I'll use this. I'll use this from time to time.
Yay! Awesome. Yeah, like this is what helped me too when I was like figuring out like where am I using application user at? If this is what's messing up my code, I want to find everything that has to do with application user. So yay, that makes me super happy. I'm so happy that, you know, I was able to contribute something new.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, let's see what else. One last thing, and please let me know if I am forgetting to like, you know, ask you how you're feeling about what you learned. I just wanted to ask, my last question was, in the admin actions partial CSHTML page, I noticed that you used something different from what was in the book, and I wasn't sure if it was something like, if it was just an aesthetic or if this was
okay, the classes I added.
Yes, the it was this right here, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just bootstrap classes to make it look normal, because without those classes, it's just going to look like it's just going to look different. So those are just bootstrap classes I added to make it look nicer.
Got it. And that was just like, that was a personal touch, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I like what else? Like what else did you feel like, what challenged you? Like what did you learn? How did you feel about this chapter?
Let's see. Okay, so all the while when implementing identity, I've never gotten to implement rules, right? You know what rules are, right? Sorry about that. I have a bit of cold.
Yeah, no, same. Like my allergies are acting crazy right now, so I'm like sniffing and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What were we saying?
But you know what? You know what roles are?
Roles. Administrative roles.
Yeah. So you know, role manager. Okay, when you're bringing in ASP.NET Identity, it comes with user manager, it comes with sign-in manager, it comes with roles manager, and a lot of all of those stuff, right? So user manager is used to manage the users. Sign-in manager is used to manage sign-in and sign-out of your application. Roles manager is used to manage roles. That is, so remember when I was talking about authorization and authentication? I said one of them was supposed to check if you are, okay, one of them is supposed to check who you are, and the other one is supposed to check what you are, right? So let's see, I'm going to figure this out now quickly. So when you talk about authentication and authorization, so authentication is supposed to figure out who you are. So you're coming in, you're signing in with your details, you're coming in, you're signing in with Gabriel Egosa at outlook.com. My password is password123. Then authentication checks. Oh, okay, we have someone with that email and that password on this app. Oh, great. Yeah, what is your role? Are you the administrator? Are you the customer? Are you the super admin? Okay, so if you're the administrator, you have these rights. You can see this, and this. If you're not the administrator, the role manager checks and says, oh, you do not have these rights. All you can see is just this part of the website. So that is what role manager does. And I from this chapter, I've been able to see how to create roles and how to assign roles to a particular user.
Yeah, and I like that. So, and I remember you explaining what authorization versus authentication was. It's like, first of all, okay, so the first step is like, are you even allowed to be in this
Yeah.
in this system?
Yeah.
If you are allowed to be in the system, what role do you have? Like, are you the administrator or are you just the client? Like, what type of power and control do you have in the system? And what are you even allowed to see? So, yes, I enjoyed learning about that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, so that's one of the interesting one for me in the security section. I'll probably play around with it. You know, the book advisor will play around with it. Give the administrator a bit of liberty to do some stuff, probably delete users or whatever. So I'll play around with it or do some other stuff with it.
same. I'll see what I can come up with, and you let me know. Like, we can share the GitHub links and see what goes from there.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So okay, I don't want to keep you. I'm
already running late myself.
and I know this was supposed to be just a short wrap up video. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. This was really fun. I'm so happy that we were able to figure out what went wrong and how we could fix it and how we could prevent these issues in the future. I'm excited to see what you come up with giving the labors for the administrator roles. And yeah, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you very much for everything, the pushing and all of that. I really appreciate that. So we're going to definitely keep our appointment for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, in 2 weeks time. Yeah, we're definitely going to try our best to keep our appointment for that one.
Yes.
And continue from there. We're almost done with the book, and I also can't wait to see what we're going to discuss next after this book. It's really been an interesting one so far. It's really been an interesting one. I really don't want it to stop. I want us to continue. I want to see some other person join us, and let's see how far we can go.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is really going to be fun, and this is obviously not going to be our last book, although we're like wrapping up. We're going to have a lot more things to talk about, a lot more new concepts to learn. So this is going to be really fun, and I'm really excited.
Exactly.
I'm so excited that we've come so far in this book, even with all the issues. So,
Yeah.
I mean, not issues in the book, but like the issues that I've come across. So yeah, I am going to end the stream, and maybe I should stop sharing right now as well. Let's see, how do I do this? Okay, so as I was saying, I'm gonna end the stream, but if you have any questions, let me know. If anybody watching this video questions, my Twitter, the link to my Twitter is in the description box below. You can DM me and message me or at me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And again, Gabriel, thank you so much for your time. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.